Welcome to Hair in the Hawthorn. My name's Kate Ray and I'm your host. This evening we've got a really interesting guest and somebody who I've had the pleasure of chatting to for a couple of months now, I think. Our relationship came about through a mutual friend who put us in contact of basically setting up a grid of people who had similar interests in the Fae and Elementals. What interests me about this lovely lady is she has such an in-depth past that has led her down the path to the Fae, and it's perhaps not a backstory that you often hear when people come into the world of Fae and start having an interest and start interacting with the Fae. So without further ado, we have with us today Julie Phelps, who is, like I say, got a really interesting background. We're going to just have a meandering chat. There's lots of things that I want to sort of question her about. So I'll just give you a bit of a bio about Julie. So she has worked in the military before and worked in the field of space. She's a former mental health worker, so she has that kind of psychological background. She's an experiencer of interdimensional beings, I would assume, and extraterrestrials. She's part of the SSP, which is a secret space program, which I'm definitely going to ask her about. And more recently, that's kind of, however that's meandered into the world of Fae, it definitely has. She is a YouTuber and has been interviewed by multiple people. She's a public speaker. Now, how we came about our friendship formed is through the Embassy of the Fae. Like I say, it's a network of people who are gathering together to be there for the Fae within the human realm, and we'll get onto that and talk a bit later. So welcome, Julie. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. What a wonderful intro. Or bio. Great, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on your show.
That's you're more than welcome.
I don't know where you want me to start because, you know,
there's lots.
There's a lot.
There is. I mean, what interests me is is that military background first and foremost. Could you just expand on what that was like? Because I assume that it isn't sort of your normal military background that you were involved in.
Well, what it was is there was two parts to the military. I was, this goes back a long way to the trauma-based mind control, and then at the age of 9 I was kind of sold on to the Illuminati, and from there when I reached the age of 18, I had this premonition or dream, as it were, to go to sign up for the military, just like that. And just overnight, I went like 2 days later to the place where you sign up, the local office, and they called me in straight away, and they says, and I was looking for a certain one, I was wondering whether to do police or something. Anyway, they says, oh, we've got aircraft mechanics, and so I says, well, I don't know about that, but yeah, oh, it's all we've got, that's it. So we'll just take the test and everything. So I took the test, and my dad was into mechanics and things, he was a teacher. And so I passed the test for the aircraft mechanic. And then within like less than 2 weeks, they wanted me in. And that is almost, when I joined, I said, it was quite funny. I said, I can't join within 2 weeks. I need a hairdresser. So that was kind of a funny thing, but it was literally, nobody gets in that quick, because in those days they didn't have the same background ability to check up on you as quick. Mm-hmm. So when I joined, most people there, it took them months to get in, and I said, well, they wanted me in within 2 weeks. So yeah, got my dog coming in. Yeah, I knew she'd come in.
I was going to say about that. Both me and Julie have well-behaved dogs most of the time, unless we're on some kind of podcast or some kind of recording. And as Julie's going to let hers out, at some point I'll have to. If anybody's seen my previous one with David, we have to pop up, and they're our fur babies. You know, they take precedence over things. I'm glad we took that natural pause though, so thank you, dog, for that. I just want to step back on this a minute. Right. You were saying about the Illuminati, that is just for me mind-blowing stuff. It really is. It's something that's fascinated me. I've been on the kind of brink of looking into it for a long time. Can you say anything about, are you able to say stuff about that period of time?
Well, I do. Able, I've been targeted enough, so it's like, yeah, watch this space. But I've got a lot of protection now, so that helps. Yeah, I've got a lot of protection. It's a good job, because the latest friends have picked up on, and I have, is they got it out on me now.
Okay.
So that's all good fun. But
so
anyway,
you said you were part of that, and that was a part of your life. Did you say from 9 to 18?
No, what happened was I remember a ritual when I was 9 years old. And then there wasn't too much after that. Basically, that was like buying me for later, whatever, for use later. And it's not just me who's had this. There's a lot of people, and you'd be surprised in how many people have been through mind control. And I mean, the current coronavirus, that's a low-level mind control in itself. The way they're using the media with the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and also the repetition, that's classic conditioning, things like that. They're using that on the TV anyway. But the Illuminati, their interest in me was right from birth, that I got from Simon Parkes, because it was, I'm a Palladian. My soul is a Palladian soul. And as I came to Earth, they kind of monitor everybody who comes to Earth. And they picked up on me from a very young age. So the trauma-based mind control started at about 6. And then 9, I was kind of bought by the Illuminati, or passed on to the Rothschilds. Now, from there, when I got to, as I said, 18, obviously they wanted me to use me in various different ways. And I do remember when I was at RAF Halton, I remember visiting Waddington Hall, if I can say that right. And that's where the Rothschilds are. And I remember going to a masquerade party and everything else, and being involved in that. And I do remember actually Victor Rothschild, who was there's Jacob Rothschild now, but Victor is passed on. And actually, I remember talking to him, and he was nice to me, actually. He was really nice to me. So it is difficult with me with the Rothschilds, because they do, not all of them are bad, and also but they do this trauma-based mind control, which is just, it's just horrific. But they obviously had looked at my kind of soul reading, and they decided for me to go into the military. So I went in as aircraft mechanic propulsion, one of the only 13 women in the country who was aircraft engines. And that was just my regular job. Then it was only after, well, it's over a year ago now, but I got deprogrammed from the mind control, and some of the mind wipes have broken down now. And I recall going to Mars, which was on a splice down timeline, because we start getting complicated with timelines. And I on another talk I've done, I went, and on the conference I went in depth, because I was a botanist there. So I was studying the plant life, the animal life, the ecosystem on Mars, which is very, very damaged. And so what I recall is I was there for about 2 years. Now, some of the other secret space program people, they have what they call 20 and back. So they were sent off for 20 years and then brought back to the same timeline. For me, I only recall about a 2-year period. But then I started to recall being taken at night, because I was given, where I was stationed unusually, I was given like this, well, screen memory of doing guard duty for a week every, less than a month, you know. So like every month I'd be doing at least a week's guard duty, and that's highly unusual because I wasn't RAF police, I wasn't RAF regiment, I was aircraft mechanic propulsion. And it's only since then that I realized this was a screen memory. And that where I was going, I remember going in a truck, one of the army trucks with the green canvas backs. And they were taking me, it must have been about an hour or so's drive or something like that, to a base that was in the dark, but it had advanced craft there. So I was working on advanced craft too. Wow. And I do have some memory of how they work, and I must actually start doing drawings of them. I mean, I was going to do a motor, actually, a 0-point engine, but even that, it's going to cost me a little bit more just to set it up. It's just not feasible for me to actually, and with all this issue with Corona and that, it's just not feasible to set up something like that.
Can I just take you back with this, because in that just snippet of stuff that's going off with you, that is some mind-blowing concepts that some people won't have ever come across. I mean, the whole concept of Palladian for me is a fairly new concept. It's a different angle. I've kind of avoided interdimensional UFO etc for quite a while. I'm hands up, it's because it frightened the bejesus out of me, so I kind of steered clear of that kind of thing. Can you first off, and I am going to have to keep shifting backwards and forwards with you because it's so interesting, can you just explain what Palladian is and what it means?
Well, it's a generic term, really. It's all different beings. They say that the Pleiades is from the Palladian or the Pleiades, you know, the different planets are in the Pleiades. But actually, it's not just that. It's very difficult in human terms to explain extraterrestrials sometimes and interdimensionals, because the Pleiadians are higher dimensional, they're fifth dimension and above generally, although, you know, I've come down to this dimension. And it was only last year I went up and I visited one of the ships and fully experienced, but I did separate from my body. But now we did film like an orb come into my chair, and it seemed to activate my chair, so I split away from my body. Because your body won't go up to the higher dimensions. It can't exist in the same way in the higher dimensions you do on Earth. I mean, we are more than our physical body. It's a bit like the Gateway program, the Monroe Gateway program. We are more than our physical selves. We are multi-dimensional beings anyway. And many of us have had other lives elsewhere, but we don't remember, because when we come here, we have our mind wiped, and this is because it's a prison planet. And when I went up to the Palladian ship, you felt no negative. You had no negative thoughts, no negative pressure, and your consciousness expanded, your perception expanded. You felt your IQ kind of expanded, everything expanded. And it was such a wonderful feeling. And it was like, do I have to go back down to earth? You know, like, you know, but, you know, I realized, you know, I've got things I need to do here. But when you come back down, you realize then the difference. All of a sudden, it's like a clamp going on your perception. It's a clamp going on your consciousness. And then you really realize this is a prison planet.
So what do you mean by prison planet? What does that mean?
Because our souls generally are recycled back to Earth, right? And there's a lot of extraterrestrials come here and been trapped. So it's getting more and more crowded because nobody can leave. You know, it's like, you know, stuck here. But there's a lot of what they call star seeds that are here now because the vibration is changing, and it's coming to a climax with the was trying to break free, and the negative wanting the status quo, and then you've got the demonic who just are nuts, they just like want to imprison our souls forever so they can keep feeding off us like a battery, or that's kind of what they want to use us for. So but Earth is a hub right now. I pick up, and others are picking up, that this is very important, this planet, because we need to counteract the negative, because it could spread to not just other parts of this dimension, but other dimensions as well. So we're kind of coming to a critical point on planet Earth at the moment. And many people are waking up. So it's not just me who's coming out of mind control. There's a lot of people waking up, and they're remembering who they are as well, from different planets, different solar systems, sometimes different galaxies, sometimes different universes. And I've been in contact with a lot of different people. So for me, it's normal talking about this sort of thing, and it's become normal interacting with different beings. Some are not nice. I mean, the Draco reptilians are, I have firsthand with my husband who passed on. He was with me when we were abducted to a place outside Dulce, and there was a warehouse, and people were literally in a hypnotic state. We were flanked by builders fencing, the metal bolt together stuff, and there was a number of reptilians along one side, and then they were taking two at a time in this warehouse and brutally butchering them because you could hear the screams. But the people were in hypnotic states until they went into the warehouse, so they didn't run or anything. But I was pretty damn terrified. My husband was a little bit less terrified because he was so much military background different than me, but I was absolutely terrified just seeing the reptilian, because he was about 12 to 14 foot. He was huge, and I was like, and you instantly knew you were working out what you were going to do, because I mean, at least my military background did kick in. And me and my husband had discussed, if we ever found ourselves in a situation where our lives were threatened, we would go for some sort of escape or something. We wouldn't just stand there. But before we could properly react, the reptilian, of course, noticed instantly that we were out of hypnosis. He made us go over towards the fence by mind control, and then he picked me up first, and he brought me right to his head. And he read my mind because I was terrified. He calmed me down first using his telepathy, and then he read my mind. And then he said to me, because I was, obviously focused on the people being taken in to be butchered, and he said to me, "Don't you judge me. You eat meat too. So don't start judging us, for the same thing." And then he picked my husband up, and it was when we got back afterwards, we were brought back, that my husband said the reptilian told him that they eat their own if they don't match up to a certain criteria of fitness or whatever the criteria is to be Draco reptilian. And human beings are harvested here. It's horrible to say, but they are. But more recently, I've been part of this as SSP. We've been sent into some of these tunnels to destroy some of these equipment, to free certain people and free children, and also destroy some of the tunnels that I do recall. My memory wipes have failed, and I was pretty traumatized by what I saw. But a lot of these are being systematically destroyed. Now, there is an issue with this, because the Draco fleets are huge. They are huge, and you have to pay a kind of like in the Roman Empire, you have to pay a certain amount to the Roman Empire. You have to pay a certain amount to the Draco. If you don't, they will. They may start a war with you, or they'll just take. They'll fight, or you can't really. It's not worth like the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians are the enemies of Draco, but there's a sort of uneasy alliance, but we're trying to hit each other as much as we can without starting a war, because a war might destroy Earth, it might destroy several planets. It's not just the amount of, a few people are going to get killed or something.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to war with the Dracos, they're really ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, human beings are very good at adapting. So the technology, we can adapt and change technology far more than other species that seem to have a more narrow imagination, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings are very good at taking technology that's passed down to us that's low level, and we're adapting it and quickly utilize it in different ways other ET races never thought of. So things like that,
mm-hmm.
that we can necessarily have bargaining chips for.
Mm-hmm.
But the galactic politics, it's probably more complicated than Earth politics.
I can imagine.
Because the Draco aren't all bad in one respect. They do defend their territory against other even more nasty creatures that are even worse. But on the other hand, we've still got the demonic here. So this is, it's getting a bit complicated what I'm talking about here, but it does give you an idea. It's a very, once you start waking up to this, once you start getting your memories back, once you start interacting with different beings, you realize it's a lot more complicated than you realize.
So where do the demonics for you sit in with all that then? Are they earthbound? Are they specifically earthbound?
No, I don't say they're earthbound at all, but they are, because of the way we're susceptible to them, and we're influenced by them quite easily as human beings. It's a good feeding ground for them here. So they're really building, they've been with us. They weren't here originally, but I don't know the history of when they actually arrived here. Now, certain people say that the jinn were here originally, but I would class them slightly different than some of the other demonics. Still negative, but I wouldn't say, I would class them different than an imp personally. I could be wrong there, but this is what I feel.
Okay, you've just phased out a little bit there, Julie. I'll just wait for you to this always happens when you start talking about elementals, that people kind of phase in and out, and the signal goes. So we'll just give Julie a minute or two, and especially when these subjects are quite heavy and complex subjects. That we were just talking about this earlier on, about how when you start talking about these subjects, how you can get all kinds of glitches and all kinds of technological things. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in, we're back, Julie. Lovely, excellent. I was just going to stop it and say we'll do it in two parts. I was just saying, did you hear what I was saying about, well, you know, when you start talking about these subjects, how technology has this real way of kind of stopping you talking about things that are getting important.
We've got negative AI as well. This week, I'm breaking up again. This week, I have been attacked by demonic and AI. I had an AI attack, which I've not had one of those before, and it was like a scuttler, like a bit like an arachnid, but it was a scuttler, and it was in a dream. Actually, it came to me.
You broke up again.
Yeah.
Kind of back, not quite back. This is the thing. It's crazy. It's crazy. No, we're frozen again. It is always the same, especially when you're talking about. Yeah, I've just got your voice back. Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Of course, AI can pick up on when we're doing videos, things like that. So, and sometimes, you know, they'll break the communication, especially if you're talking about something they don't want out in the public. But there are a lot more people reporting AI scuttlers, and they don't normally attack, they normally monitor. But this was something different. This was it was trying to implant a, because I've had most of my implants, negative implants, removed. I had one surgically removed, and then I had black goo removed from my body as well. This was through Dolores Cannon hypnosis. We managed to get rid of the black goo, and the black goo the reptilians put in to control, slightly to control, but more to monitor where you are, what you're doing. It can
So
alter your physiology.
was that a biological thing then that they actually placed in your body? Was it a biological, or was it on a psychic level?
The implant in the spine, I was abducted. That was military abducted, but they were the more negative military that were controlled by the Draco. They, because I went public on the Connecting Consciousness Zoom, and I had a EMF reader, and I was reading the meter, and the alarm was going off because it was coming straight from my back. And so that was like evidence to show that I got an implant there. And then within like a few days, it was actually the Super Bowl, or how you say it, in America. At the very flaming minute that started last year is when I was hit by this direct energy weapon, and it was starting to really like put a halo over me. And then I started thinking, oh God, are they going to kill me? Because I'd not been hit by one of them. I thought this might be it. But I couldn't go outside. It was -20. I was still in Canada then. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I tried to stagger to the bedroom. I thought, well, if I collapse, I'll be on my bed and I don't know if they're going to kill me. But I got to the bedroom and I managed to lie down, and I just couldn't move. It paralyzed me completely. But I could still hear. Oh, Raven. Sorry. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah. She actually, I don't know, she picked up on the end of that, maybe not. But Raven was there with me, and she was going berserk. She was crying, howling, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I had my family there, and they suddenly went quiet too, so they were knocked out. And my dog was the last. She was traumatized by it. In fact, she became terrified of men after that incident. And then my eyes shut. I couldn't open my eyes, but I could hear. And I heard military voices, like 2 ways and things like that. I heard like military and they were coming in, and I couldn't do anything about it. And then I thought, right, I'm going to do a psychic attack because they may be coming to kill me. I don't know. I didn't know at that point. So I was going to do a psychic attack, and they instantly knocked me out then. It's like, you're not getting those, right? So, and then I did wake up during that event because I woke up and it was in this underground. I felt it was underground. It was like a room with no windows and like a hospital bed. I was on an operating table, but there was 5 guys in the room, and they all had lab coats on. They did not have scrubs on. They weren't wearing scrubs like you would normally expect. They were wearing lab coats. And I remember one of the guys saying, "Turn her over," and then I was out again. Next thing I woke up and I was back in my room, and I was groggy, like they give me an anesthetic. And I was all right. I communicated with a friend then, and straight away, and they said, yeah, I realized you've been away somewhere. I could sense it. And from that, about a day later, I started to get terrible pain in my back. I hadn't got it up to there, like it was been numbed. And then when I managed to get a camera, took photographs, it had like a pyramid-shaped cut, like dots, and then this cut, which I did ask what this was with Simon. And he said, yeah, that's a military, it's a SSP military have done that. And so they'd taken out, and I had no more readings in my back. So they'd taken out the implant, basically. But I did feel it. I felt like a disconnect when they'd taken it out. So that was kind of that aspect.
So how do we go from the military, Illuminati, Palladian, interdimensional beings, extraterrestrials. How did we get to the world of Fae? What was the kind of start of that journey for you?
Well, I've always had a connection with forests, land, everything like that. I've always felt a very close connection with that. And I've always been very psychic ever since, as far as back as I remember, I've been very psychic. So I've always had a sense of beings being around, and I've had paranormal activity around me since word go. But what happened was last year I had an awakening, and I ended up being taken also to a like a general ET council meeting, which is higher dimensional. And there it's about community, it's about being a bridge between different species. So I've now communicated more with arachnids, giant arachnids, and also all different types of beings. Now the Fae, again, are a different form of, not just one being, but they're a different collection of beings that obviously are earthbound, but there are extraterrestrial ones too. Now some extraterrestrial ones came here in April. When I went to Castle Rigstone Circle, I was guided to go there to energy work, and this was to do with the Atlas Comet. And although they said it broke up, some of it came here. It wasn't actually a comet, it was a ship. And some of them came here, and they are ET elementals. So they do have elementals on other planets, it's not just Earth. But they've come here to assist Earth in its transition, to help communicate with the Fae and elementals that were already here and assist them, because what I've been told is a lot of the Fae wish to go up in the vibration up to the 5th dimension, but they're learning like the rest of us. They're learning because a lot of, human beings are just waking up to it. So the Fae as well, they're learning the vibration is a lot higher than they used to. Many of them wish to raise up the vibration. And of course we do have negative, well, I don't know if you would associate them as call them Fae or not, actually, Kate, the ones that are negative. Like, I don't know if I would call them Fae, actually.
I do, only because I use the word Fae as other. So for me, it's that other dimension that's connected with the Earth and connected with us directly. And I do see that as it's a rainbow. So you have the malevolent to the benevolent, and they all have specific tasks, specific jobs on the Earth. Whether that's lessons or blessings to dole out or to not dole out. So I do. I mean, there's some beings that I don't I certainly don't see in the Fae world. And for me, and I've said this quite recently, quite publicly, things like mermaids, etc., I see them in mythical creature realm as opposed to into Fae realm. I think Fae, as you've said, are high vibrational beings that can interact with us interdimensionally, and they come from a very thin veil between their own world and ours. And I think for me it's the nearest veil in the kind of astral planes, if you like. For me it's the nearest one to us, and so they form this connection between those worlds. That's for me anyway. That's my understanding of it. It's interesting that you say about, I've never really thought about other planets having elementals, sort of the extraterrestrial elementals, but it absolutely makes sense, especially if other planets are struggling, that these elemental beings would come to different planets to either populate or to just settle and help out. Do you get a sense that then that the relationship on other planets between elementals and Fae and the inhabitants, the material, the material physical inhabitants of that planet, do they have a different relationship than we do with Fae?
Well, there's so many different planets, just even in the third dimension, even in our galaxy. I mean, the amount of suns, they say there's 250 billion suns, give or take 150 billion. That's just in the third dimension. That's not even talking about the higher dimensions. So when we talk about life, it's there's so much. It's hard. Everything you can imagine has occurred, and so much more than we could never imagine. Because and even different universes, there are dark universes. They're not all light universe. Some are completely dark, some are completely light. Now at the moment, in the 3D dimension we're in on Earth, it's a duality. We've got the light and we've got the dark here. Now the dark is trying to push in with light as our vibration changes. But the thing is, when you've got duality, you do actually need some of the dark to create a balance. But as our vibration rises, they have to drop off. They cannot move up. They can't vibrate to the same level as a higher vibration. So they will not be able to stay. So they're trying to do things to delay or to change the timeline, change the outcome, as it were. They want us to plunge into a darker world because they don't want to lose. You know, you can understand it in the manner of speaking. They don't want to lose what they see as normal. I mean, their dark existence is normal to them. It's not nice to us, but it's normal for them. So it's a difficult planet, really. It's difficult. It's so heavy here, and things are coming to a point where the vibration of the planet is rising. Now, as you know, we've been discussing certain things that I've picked up and other people have picked up about this possible opening of a dark portal, and it's going to be pretty vast. And it's about people getting together, and all beings, not just us, higher dimensional beings, Fey realm, the arachnids, which have a huge part to play in the universe too, all coming together to defend against and try and close this portal when it opens. Because this is a portal they want to open and swallow everything up, not just Earth, but a lot of other places. Who knows how far? It could be the whole universe they want to expand into. And so many of us, and there's a lot of like media promoting it, like through like I can't think of the word right now, but like precognition, almost like inadvertently there's a lot of movies about dark clouds coming, or about this black substance, or about this there's so many, like the darkness, they keep repeating it on so many programs. Go on Netflix, you flick through there and it's all over, and you're like,
It's like subliminally they're drip feeding us. They're kind of they're setting a scene, aren't they? They do it. It's done a lot, even in terms of very basic advertisement. You know, we know that now that psychology sells within advertisement, and people think that that's where it stops, and it doesn't. There's a whole gambit of things that go off. You know, they don't call it a program on TV for no reason. It is a program. It is programming, and it is programming us for certain things that are going to occur. I definitely believe that. And I mean, we've spoke and we spoke with other people, haven't we, about this darkness, and the sense from a lot of people who are psychical, sensitive, empathic, those who work with interdimensional beings, or those who work with the Fae, or even the spirit world, are all getting this very similar message in different ways on psychic levels. And getting waves of it at the same time, so we're all getting the same kind of senses at the same time. And you know, you can say to a lot of people in those circles, you know, I feel like there's a darkness coming, and they know exactly what you mean, because that is the kind of it's the key word, isn't it? There's this darkness. We're on the edge of this darkness, and that's one of the reasons why we sort of got together to talk about what we could do within raising our own vibration and raising the vibration of other people, getting them to work with Fae, in order to hold back and to fight back this kind of impending, which I think we'll all agree was probably very highly triggered at the start of the C19, possibly a few months before, when again there was a wave of people going, I feel really bad and I don't know why. You know, sort of pre-Christmas, October time, a lot of people around but just had this impending doom, this feeling of impending doom, and didn't know where it was coming from at all. You know, so I mean that
going to be a roller coaster ride this year, but I mean last year was so much of a roller coaster ride for me. For me, this is like I was coming back to Britain thinking, oh yeah, I'll have a bit of peace. No. No.
So was it when you came back to Britain then that the Fae side of things sort of kicked in with you? Was it coming back to sort of the homeland? And Britain's very much sort of Fae orientated.
I was already told before I come here there was preparations from the Fae in Canada that were communicating with the Fae in Britain that I was coming back. So they were already waiting for me to come back. And there's certain tasks which I can't talk about too much on here. I can talk to you about it, but certain things I've got to keep a little bit to myself because there can be negative people who watch this. And but there's certain preparations being put in place at the moment to help counteract some of these events. And a lot's going to be happening, and Britain is going to be a hub, a focal point for the Fae. I have no doubt about this, although there's Fae all over the planet. For some reason, the United Kingdom is a real hub of Fae elementals. They're so very active, and basically it's creating a gathering of all beings. And my interest is in communicating with Fae as well, friendships, learning how to interact. And in time, I also would like to I'd like to own somewhere where we can run courses to help people understand the Fae, to interact how we need to like a symbiotic union with the Fae. So we're, rather than like battling against the Fae, we work with the Fae. So we respect the Fae that are all around us and can help us and support us, and we help them as well. And we don't tread on their space, and we tread carefully so that we can work with them. That's kind of a goal as well. That's another aspect to what I feel very strongly about, because the elementals of Fae have been really badly treated by industrialization, by wanton destruction of all manner of things without a second thought. And it's a kind of want to redress the balance of this, to create more a balanced existence on planet Earth. And as our vibration rises, to work together, because I feel we'll be able to see them no problem. Once our vibration gets to some point, we'll be seeing the Fae. Everybody will be seeing the Fae. So people need to get used to seeing Fae, extraterrestrials. They'll need to get used to this, because they're not going to get a lot of choice with this. As things, more and more people are seeing UFOs, more and more people are seeing ETs, and it's going to continue to increase. And in fact, disclosure is not that far off. It's such a battle at the moment of when to do the disclosure, when not, and things like that. But the relation between ETs and Fae, it's all one. It's not like this spectrum, well, I can only be a ghost hunter, which I don't like the term hunter, because I prefer, if I'm interested in freeing souls as well. That's very much a purpose that I want to help support souls pass over into the light and not be trapped by demonic. And that's my interest there. I'm not really interested in just filming an area and then going away.
Mm-hmm.
No, only if I can either, support. And beings and ghosts who are fully, I fully respect their,
Mm-hmm.
if they wish to stay somewhere and they're not doing any harm, they're not negative, fine. It's their right.
Mm-hmm.
That's my belief in that sort of thing, because we're all going to pass over the veil at one time or another, whenever it is,
Mm-hmm.
So it's about respecting those that have passed over the veil.
And I think that goes with all those beings that you've mentioned, that it is about respect, isn't it? And respect doesn't necessarily mean that you enjoy what they're doing or agree with what they're doing. It's an understanding, isn't it? And it's about understanding these other beings, which is going to get hugely complex, like you say, hugely complex. And it is all about opening ourselves up to knowing that we are vibrational beings, that we aren't the kind of the skin and the body that we're in. We're very much more. And opening our mind up to these concepts is definitely one way in to being able to experience these concepts. But as you've so clearly said, they're not without danger. I know from the stories that you've told me and the stories that you've mentioned on here that it has been a pretty hairy ride for you so far. And people do need to be aware of that.
Yeah.
That when you start looking into these things, when you start raising your own vibration, just on a side note for that, how if somebody's watching this and thinking, I mean, for me, this is, talking to you is always mind-blowing, always blows my mind. It's great. I love it. But I'm that kind of person where, I'm a curious monkey and I love it. I absolutely love it. But there are going to be people that are going to be watching this who are going to be, there are so many concepts that we've just covered. But I think for me, looking into those concepts that you've mentioned is definitely important. But how would you say is the best way to start focusing yourself into being able to interact positively? I mean, we talk about the Fae in terms of making strong relationships so that we can stand together and raise our vibrations up. How would you suggest that people start to do that?
Is that specifically with the Fae, or are we talking?
Or into any? If there's just one platform starting place, that would be brilliant.
Well, with the Fae, obviously, I've been taught by others about doing the tobacco offering, the Indian tobacco, pure Indian tobacco, because mainstream tobacco is tainted with a lot of toxins, but pure Native American tobacco isn't. So the Fae love that. They love the aroma of it, the flavour. So that's a good connection. But when I got to Britain, I was guided to pick a leaf. I offered tobacco to it was actually a hawthorn that's in the garden. And so I asked if I could take a leaf, and they said yes. So I took a leaf, put some honey on it, and offered it to the Fae as a gift. So it's about respect. So building respect with Fae means offerings of, not anything, not a sacrifice or something like that. That's the last thing. But offerings of something sweet, like or if you're guided to offer something, for that it was a leaf and some honey, but also native tobacco, which I've got quite a bit now because I keep getting sent it, so it's good. And and even as I've been told, a bit of hair, your own hair, as an offering, which, I'm not bald because I always forget my tobacco when I'm going for flip and I know, a bit of hair.
I mean, they're all traditional things to do, aren't they? And I do find them incredibly interesting, because it's not just so much the offering of what you're offering, it's the way you're doing it. And it's about being in that moment and being completely absorbed in that moment and giving yourself out. Sorry?
Yeah. It's
Go
about
on.
the heart.
It is about the heart.
You're doing this with respect and from the heart, genuinely. They know this.
Yeah.
So that is an important element. So from the heart, definitely.
And just on a last note, I'm going to have to come back and talk to you again, because we're running out of time, and there's just been so much that we could cover, and I do want to get back to the kind of extraterrestrial inside dimensional things, because it does blow my mind. Have you ever had a physical encounter that you would consider to be a Fae encounter?
Yes, I've had something spliced in my body. I don't know. The Fae came. I've got it on video. It comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about that long, and
Mm-hmm.
it comes in. Only that bit leaves, so the rest is spliced inside me.
Wow.
So yeah, I caught that on video too. But I've got a lot of videos that catch. Some of them are kind of higher dimensional sort of energies that are around me, and you never know with me. If sometimes you have a video with me and you'll see them whizzing around me, so you never can guarantee it. It's something I don't control, but like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes oh yeah, I saw one. It's like, so that happens with me. So, and I've lost a train of thought now.
We were saying about that physical interaction with Faye, that kind of moment when, because I've always felt the Faye are around, and it's never ever been outside my sort of it's been quite normal for me. It's never been outside my world really, but I have had moments where the reality's been like a brick. The Fae have just gone, yes, we are here, and they've come in terms of physicality. And one of the things that has sparked these discussions off with me with different people has been the upsurge within the paranormal community of different entities, the theories about different entities other than human spirits adding to hauntings or being part of hauntings within people's homes, and them having what they assume are either poltergeist or sort of noisy hauntings or aggressive hauntings, and they've actually, for whatever reason, turned out to be of the Fae realm or of the other realm that are coming in and haunting. Have you had anything sort of on that physical level? I know you've got these fantastic videos, but
I've had like a fawn come in, and I sensed it, and it sat next to me.
mm-hmm.
So I've had interactions like that, and I've always sensed them in woods. I've had this.
Mm-hmm.
I can hardly go past the wood without it like dragging me in. It's like this magnet. I am so attracted to woodland. It's unreal. And I mean, if any realm. I mean, I just love the Fae realm. I feel connection to the Fae realm. I'd love to, oh God, just let go of my human body and just be a Fae.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so much quicker to get around, so much lighter, and whereas the human body is very dense and like,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Yeah.
as you get old, like me, getting older, it's like, oh, for goodness sake, move, body.
I mean, like you, I am definitely a dendrophile. I am a massive lover of the woodlands, and I think that goes with all sort of Fae type people. Do you think that there is some connection then between people who have pre-existing Palladian souls or interdimensional beings that you are either reincarnated or you are carnating into this physical body on Earth, that we in that fact have a stronger connection with the Fae and almost just a normal understanding of the Fae realm?
I do feel that I've been a Fae in one lifetime, so I can relate, and I think probably many people have been Faes at one time, but their memories have been wiped because there's not that many people on Earth that are just like new souls that have never been incarnated before. There will be some here, but there's an awful lot of people who are walking around, that we see and have no clue that they've been something else on a different planet, or on this planet as a Fae, or as a different creature or animal or something else, or I mean, quite often we like some people get memories about being a human in different lifespans. I have memories of being a human being in different lifespans. But you know, I think people are just waking up. There's this, it's like this prison planet. It's like this wave. The energy's coming in, and it's starting to crack open these mind wipes that have been on all of us. Let alone ones that have been more traumatic mind wipes, you know, to do with what I've been through. But everybody's had some sort of mind control. You brought up, no matter where you brought up, right from birth, you're programmed into culture, society, whatever's going at the time, you know, depending on where you're born in the world, you know. And it's all programming. And quite often children have this innocence about them, and they do believe in the fae, and then it's drummed out of them by society, or has been, although it's more accepted now. It was definitely, as I grew up, I couldn't tell my parents anything. No matter what experience I had, I couldn't say a word to them, because they would just absolutely go for me. You know, they like, you know, and it's like, so, but now things are changing, you know, people are far more open, and it's great.
It is. It's brilliant, and I think that whole concept of people coming together, regardless of what your understanding or your belief system is within any of the things that we've talked about. But I think especially at this time, coming together, standing together, and raising our own vibrations is for me the only real way forward, to getting through what we're actually experiencing as a globe, you know. And I've definitely taken a lot from the discussions that we've had in that respect, because I think I was very adamant when we first met that it's war, you know, that, you know, we've got to sort of tackle this with fire, and you know, it's coming round to that, you know, just people raising the vibrations. Julie, I could talk with you for hours and hours and hours. I'm going to have to bring you back on different subjects. I am, like you say, going to get into that whole ufology thing, and interdimensional beings, and I think we'll both end up really, really hoarse if we carry on talking, because we could do this all night. I know we could. So I want to thank you so much for being so candid and taking us through a meandering, just a field of a raft of crazy, lovely things. So, and thank you for being so honest with what we've discussed as well. So, thank you so much, Julie, and I hope to speak to you very, very soon.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.